This is our 60th anniversary. Do you remember Johnny Martin? Johnny Martin used to be a Southern person. She was one of our
You know why? That's it. When did Southern open up? You talking about Southern Shreveport? Southern?
John.
Okay.
This is my last time. I've been out here 3 times. I've nothing to do.
My friend knows how to do it. I don't do it that fast.
Could we please call this Caddo Parish Commission work session meeting to order? It is April 18th at 3:33 p.m. Mr. Clerk, could we have a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Commissioner Hopkins.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson.
Here.
Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Young.
Here.
Commissioner Burrell. Commissioner Jones.
Here.
Commissioner Gage Watts. Commissioner Taliaferro.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Atkins.
Here.
Commissioner Chavez.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Lazarus.
Here.
Commissioner Epperson.
Here.
All right, you have 10 of 12 members present. That is a quorum.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk. And we have Commissioner Taliaferro, who's going to lead us in the invocation, and Commissioner Jones will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Could we all stand, please?
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, as we come off the weekend, the Easter weekend, and witness the miracle of the resurrection of your Son, we are reminded that we all get new opportunities, new chances, new rebirth. And Lord, we're asking many blessings that we're good representatives of the people that we serve. Lord, bless this meeting today. Make it the good of the people that we are going to do their will. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Place your hand over your heart. Veterans, for a proper render salute, and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Taliaferro. Thank you, Commissioner Jones.
All right, that brings us to agenda additions. I did hear Some mentioned that there may be an agenda addition, but I don't have anything written.
I've not seen anything regarding an agenda addition.
Okay, then maybe that was just a thought. So if there are none, we will move along to visitors. Where today we do have one scheduled visitor, and that is a presentation from Lynn Stevens of Goodwill Industries. I don't know if I saw it. There she is. Goodwill Industries was here to present on Second Chance Month. Second Chance Month, the commission did adopt a resolution proclaiming April Second Chance Month during your last regular session. We have that here, and we did not read it into the record. If y'all would like, we could read it into the record, or we can just wait for their presentation.
We can just have the presentation. Thank you, Lynn.
Just make myself at home here. Good morning, or good afternoon, I guess. Thanks, Jeff. So just wanted to give you guys a quick update about a really exciting program that we actually brought to this community 3 years ago in regards to reentry. And so we finished that first 3-year contract, and we were very grateful that you guys actually wrote a letter of support from the commission to support our opportunities to bring this program to the community. And it's called Exit 318. And so it's ex-offenders in transition. That's what it stands for. And so we completed that first 3-year grant, and I want to just give you some highlights because it's pretty phenomenal statistics. Happy to report they actually just renewed the contract. And so this is a Department of Corrections grant. And so we're very grateful that the state has recognized and brought some of the dollars back to the communities where recidivism is really high. And so the whole premise of the program is to reduce recidivism. So everybody knows the statistics for Caddo Parish, about reentry. We're the worst, almost the worst in the state. We're actually number 2 parish. A lot of people don't realize that. But for our grant period, we actually served 224 ex-offenders in this community that were already returning, that they returned. Of those, 93% of them were case managed successfully, and of those, we were able to successfully only recidivate. The recidivism rate for the community for those individuals was only 5%. The state average is almost 40%. So if you think about the statistics of that alone, we were very, very successful, and we actually think that's one of the reasons why, I don't want to gloat, but we're probably one of the #1 programs in the state right now. The economic impact for that, it's phenomenal. It's $1.35 million. And so for us, when we talk about Second Chance Month, putting people to work is a barrier. When people get out, if they're not busy, guess what they're gonna do? Or they go back to old habits because where they live, that's all they know. And so for us, we have to change that mindset, and we have to work with these individuals. So case management, employment, and housing is the third key. And so that's what we really focused on. We're very lucky. We actually have a separate contract, which we have Nina Webster here in the community. She is our community coordinator, so anybody releasing, she is that able to help connect people to resources. That's very unique. We're one of only, I think, 14 community coordinators in the state. We help save families about $441,000 a year. And as far as the becoming employed and why this resolution is so important, the estimated lifetime earnings for those individuals that we helped, $106 billion. That's with the B. And so we're very proud of the statistics we have. We're very lucky that you guys continue to support Goodwill. we're really happy to talk About Second Chance Month. We know locally there's a lot of people needing employees. And so we know that these individuals that we can work with, we can get them employed, we can help them not recidivate. So thanks so much.
Thank you, Lynn. All right, so, Mr. Clerk, I think we had a little bit of an agenda malfunction.
We did on your print agendas. It does not actually have the citizens' comments listed, but this is the point on your agenda where citizens' comments should be heard. And we do also have, which is listed, the late arrivals. But this is the point where citizens' comments should be heard, and we have received 2 citizens' comments today.
Okay.
If there are other citizens who wish to fill out a citizens' comment request card, they are in the foyer, and they can be returned right here, and we will give them to the president. But I believe you should have received 2, and a third one that is related to the second.
I see. Okay, thank you, Mr. Clerk. The first citizens visitor card is from Mr. R.J. Johnson. Hello, Mr. Johnson. I think he's going to visit with us about the Juvenile Justice Advisory Council.
Thank you, Mr. President. Commissioners, again, it's a pleasure to be before you today. I'm not going to be in town on Thursday, so I want to come talk to you today. But I want to thank Commissioner Jones for nominating me for serving on the Juvenile Justice Advisory Committee. I know that committee has already begun its work, but excited to join them if you so choose in that work. For those of you who may not know, I am a certified juvenile treatment specialist, and so there are a number of things through your resolution that you've asked that committee to do. One of them is to look at therapeutic solutions, and so as a juvenile treatment specialist certified by the National Association of Forensic Counselors, I am perfectly aware of what needs to happen in those areas. For those of you who may not know, in April of last year, Mayor Perkins adopted and accepted the My Brother's Keeper initiative, and I have the opportunity to lead that effort along with the Community Foundation in making sure that our folks, our young people have access to different opportunities. And so I'll actually be in San Antonio on Thursday visiting their My Brother's Keeper program to hopefully bring back some of those ideas to Shreveport. And as you know, Mayor Perkins has chosen 3 initiatives. One, making sure that our youth are ready for school, that they have access to second chances, and that we reduce youth violence there, and also preparing our kids for kindergarten. And so I'm excited to do that as well. It is a great opportunity, and anytime you've called me, I've enjoyed serving and would appreciate your support to serve on that committee. Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, Mr. Robbins. Pardon me, Mr. Johnson. We have a second speaker is James Robinson, and I think he may be also representing Edward Robinson. Mr. Robinson, are you here?
Yes.
Come on up.
I'd like to speak on behalf of my dad first, if that'll be all right. Okay. Edward W. Robinson, 6401 Bain Boulevard. He's a 93-year-old veteran. This is a story I'm going to tell you, try to get it in 3 minutes. He decided to do some house cleaning around his house, so his family members, which are myself and my brothers, decided to go by and help him. So we've been doing this for about the last month. We loaded up a trailer with trash, a few dressers, and a couple of mattresses, and proceeded to go to the compactor site. We went to the compactor site at Spring Ridge first, and the dumpster was full. So the compactor attendant said, hey, do y'all mind to go down to the co-op in Keithville? They got 2 dumpsters down there, and they're probably empty. So we said, no, we'll drive down there. So we drove down there. Before we ever got in the gate, the attendant came to the truck and said, I don't think y'all can dump that trailer here. I said, why? She said, well, how big is the trailer? And I said, well, is there a limit? She said, yeah, 12 foot. I said, well, there's about 12 foot on the trailer. She said, well, that's too much. I said, well, what is too much? She said, well, there's too much on the trailer to dump here. I said, well, the attendant at Spring Ridge said we could come here and dump. She said, well, he doesn't run this site. I said, okay. So we left there and we went to the Woolworth Road landfill site on Woolworth Road. And there's a big sign right when you come in the scale that says Caddo Parish residents, no charge with driver's license. So we produced a driver's license and we're told that you can't dump the trailer there because there's too much on it. I said, well, what is your limit at the landfill? I mean, it's a dump. She said, well, if you had one TV or one or two bags of trash or whatever, we might could let you dump, but we have to charge you. I said, ma'am, it says right there on the sign, Caddo Parish residents with driver's license, no charge. She said, well, yeah, but you got too much. And my dad said, well, how much is too much to pay? And I said, Dad, it's not the deal. I said, read the sign. He read the sign. And he said, yeah, you're right. We shouldn't be paying anything to dump. So I said, okay. We talked to the superintendent on site. She said, well, that's the regulations. You can't dump unless you pay. So we left. Okay? Come to find out, I have a brother that works for the city of Shreveport called the solid waste superintendent, and the next week we took that same trailer in the landfill and dumped it for free.
At the same
Okay?
spot?
That's the end of that. Now, for my deal, my name is James Robinson, 10398 Leach Lane, Shreveport, Louisiana. I have a Shreveport address, but it's in Keithville.
Move to extend 3 minutes.
Second.
All in favor by acclamation? Carry on, Ms. Robinson.
Thank you. For y'all that, I know a few of y'all, and for y'all that don't know me, I've been in the waste business for over 40 years. I've worked up here at the Caddo Parish Commission as a consultant, liaison, whatever you want to call it, for many of those years. In the beginning, the compactor sites that we're talking about, that I'm talking about, okay, were virtually non-existent because of funding issues and whatever. Years ago, the parish went out to the community, along with myself, solicited sales tax for funding for these sites. These sites were set up for the parish residents to have somewhere to take their waste from their house. That's what they were set up to do. They grew over time to what I think there's 17 sites now. It's my understanding there's an ordinance that regulates what goes in the compactor sites. I haven't seen that. I don't know what that says, but there's an ordinance. There's also something, a signage on the facility that says no trailer over 12 foot. Well, if you bring a 16-foot trailer in there and it's half full, is that a 16-foot trailer or an 8-foot trailer? You know, my deal is there's so many uncertainties to the operators that are left on site to decide who's what, when, and where, that I think it would be nice if the parish came back to a committee out in the parish to get input to see what we can do better for the compactor sites. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Okay. Did you have a motion?
I do.
Can you speak?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. President, thank you. I would like to move to suspend the rules and move up item 10.6, special proclamation for the Zeta.
We have a motion by Commissioner Thurmagage Watts, a second by Commissioner Talfero
John Paul.
John Paul, to suspend the rules and open up the agenda to move the item 10-6 regarding the Zeta proclamation up in the agenda.
Yes.
Do we have any comments on that? Do we have approval by acclamation? Seeing approval, let's move forward with that let's move that proclamation up.
Point of clarification, are we suspending the rules to introduce this, or are we suspending the rules to adopt it?
It's a proclamation to be read.
Present it? What we do?
And so, yeah, you're
Suspend and as well as adopt this item.
Okay.
suspend the rules to read and adopt.
So we just present it today?
Yeah, we presented today
Yeah, we'll still adopt it on Thursday.
Okay.
Okay,
in the regular session.
okay, thank you. We're
So
good?
to move forward to Thursday.
Okay,
Is that the word?
yeah,
Okay.
there we go, thank you. All right, so I have motion to suspend the rules and read the proclamation and move forward to Thursday for consideration?
Yes.
Okay, thank you all on the other end of the horseshoe there. All right, Commissioner Gage Watts, the floor is yours.
Jim?
Would you like me to go ahead and read it
Yes.
into the record? Absolutely. So this reads proclamation. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong one.
Stand, please.
This is a proclamation of recognition to the Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. The Caddo Parish Commission is pleased to acknowledge events of significance that occur in the community and to recognize the organizations and individuals who are now and for a long time have been in the forefront of positive and worthy activities and deeds that accrue to the benefit of all. And whereas such an organization is the Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, whose Zeta Iota Zeta chapter will be celebrating their 60th anniversary on April 20th, 2022. And whereas the Zeta Phi Beta Incorporated was founded on the campus of Howard University on January 1920 and has thousands of members across the world. And whereas since its inception, Zeta Phi Beta has continued its steady climb into the national spotlight with programs designed to demonstrate concern for the human condition both nationally and internationally. The sorority takes pride in its continued participation in transforming communities through volunteer service from members and its auxiliaries. Zeta Phi Beta has chartered hundreds of chapters worldwide and has a membership of 100,000 plus. And whereas Zeta Phi Beta Sorority's southern region was established in 1929 with the mission to implement and execute meaningful programs and projects throughout Texas and Louisiana in a manner that will engage and encourage sorority and auxiliary members in providing superior service to the community. And whereas the Zeta Iota Zeta chapter of Zeta Phi Beta was founded in 1962 and is preparing to celebrate its 60th anniversary with a free and open to the public parade celebration to be held on April 20th, 2022 at 6 p.m. on Pines Road at Jefferson Page Road intersection, where they will celebrate 60 years of scholarship, service, sisterhood, and a finer womanhood. Now therefore be it resolved by the Caddo Parish Commission and legal session convened that it is hereby welcome and recognize April 20th, 2022 as Zeta Iota Zeta chapter of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Day in Caddo Parish, Louisiana, urging all citizens to join with the Caddo Parish Commission to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Zeta Iota Zeta chapter of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority. And that is signed by the Caddo Commission.
Everybody be seated. Welcome. There's a few words to say from you guys. Thank y'all for being here today.
Thank you all. On behalf of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, Zeta Iota Zeta chapter, it is indeed an honor to be here, and we thank you all for this proclamation, this special recognition today. Since our sorority's inception 102 years ago, we have been standing on the principles of scholarship, service, sisterhood, and finer womanhood. And since our chartering, April 20th, 1962, we have been illuminating those principles here in our city, in our parish, with an emphasis on service. And so it is indeed an honor, and we stand proud to say that we have been those finer women who have been serving this community for the past 60 years and will continue to serve this community for years to come. Again, please allow us to say thank you so much, and we truly appreciate it.
Thank y'all for being here. Wait, before you run off, I think we've got a few folks on the board that might want to say a few words. Commissioner Johnson, is that Jackson or Johnson?
Jackson.
Commissioner Jackson, that board is too far from my eye.
Oh my. Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Just want to say congratulations and thank you, and look forward to the celebration. But I also just wanted to just point out that, you know, we almost might need to give Ms. Dottie Bell a seat up here, because this makes me number 4. That she last time. Okay. Well, I just want you to know that you're always welcome. You're always welcome. But enjoy the work that y'all do for our community. I see a lot of familiar faces out here, and I know that the organization is always out in the community, moving our community forward, both in your organization capacity, but I see a lot of folks who are doing things in their individual capacity. So congratulations and keep up the work in Caddo Parish. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Gage Watts?
Thank you, Mr. President. President Marcy Collins, and to all of the sorors of Zeta Phi Beta sorority, we congratulate you on your anniversary celebration, as well as all of the accomplishments that you are completing in our communities. You are what makes us better. It's by all of us working together. And we're so honored to have you here with us today to be able to celebrate with you on these accomplishments, as well as do it early. And I wanted to also thank my colleagues for allowing us to do this on a Monday, because this is something we normally do on Thursdays. I will be out of office on Thursday, as well as this is the beginning of the culmination of your events. So it all worked out. It's really good. I said God does all things well. And I also wanted to say it's good to see our school board representative, Ms. Dottie Bell, once again. I said that I've seen her 3 times in the last 7 days. And I think Commissioner Jackson says he's seen her 4 times this month. But she's always all over the place. She always represents well in whatever she does. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to congratulate you and thank you for your work in our communities.
Thank you,
so
Commissioner
much.
Gage Watts. Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. President. To the ladies of Zeta Phi Beta, I know what it is, Dr. But you know, the Divine Nine, we do a lot of work in our community, and I appreciate the work that you guys do. A lot of times, the work that's being done is not noticed across the city. A lot of times, it's just done, and people see it in different pockets, and I think it's part of our improving Caddo Parish. We need to start getting some of these highlights together, some of the social work that we be doing in the communities to advertise this as part of, this is what Shreveport is, this is what Caddo Parish is, and our Panhellenic Council is working hard to get things done. And then it's seen by a lot of people. It could be something that we could put on YouTube, but I mean, there's a lot of work that's done within the Divine Nine that goes unnoticed. And I just want to say thank you for the hard work that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. I think that's all we have on the board, but thank you, ladies, for coming down today. Thank you for all you do for our community. I've run across many of you all through the years for your service to our community, so thank you for all you do. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. King.
And if that brings us back into regular session?
Yes, if we'll
Motion
come
to
back
go
into
back into
regular
regular
session.
order.
Second.
Thank you. We had a motion for Commissioner Jackson to come back into regular agenda.
Second.
And a second from Commissioner Hopkins, was it? All in favor of coming back into regular session, say aye.
Aye.
All right, back to regular session.
All
Mr.
right,
Clerk?
that brings us to reports where we find ourselves. Well, I'm sorry. Had you finished the public comment cards? I believe
Yes.
that you had.
Yeah, we're done with those.
That. Okay. That brings us to the administration report.
Dr. Wilson?
Good afternoon, President Atkins and Commissioners. We have with us today Attorney Curtis Joseph to give us an update on a very important legal matter that may be coming our way. So, yes, sir, come on up, Attorney Joseph. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having us. Good
Hello,
afternoon,
Mr.
ladies and
Joseph.
gentlemen.
Nice to see you.
So many familiar faces here. Good to see you all. I want to be brief and be a good steward of your time. I thank you, Donna, for getting us before the body today. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Myself, my good friend William Bradford, my colleague, and my other colleague, Mr. Eston Hood from Atlanta, Georgia, are here present. And we have our fourth member, Mr. Chris Hollins, who is from Houston. He could not be with us today, but he's here via telephone. He had a campaign event that kept him, and you can imagine trying to travel during the Easter holiday. So we have him and his knowledge and his wisdom here on the telephone. Essentially, we'd like the opportunity to represent the parish to recoup monetary damages stemming from an ongoing insulin price fixing scheme. Some of you may be aware, some of you may not. essentially the cost to manufacture insulin has not really increased over the past several decades, yet the price that is being sold to end users has expanded exponentially. I mean, you can't really even quantify it. It's gone from like $60 a vial, somewhere upwards of $700 in some instances. And to the extent that there are a multitude of parish employees, retirees, and prisoners that are housed by the parish, we think that there could be tremendous monetary damages that we would like to represent you all to recover. So I'd like to have Mr. Bradford. And I'd like to also hand out these handouts. Would it be best to give it to the clerk?
Yeah. To the clerk, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again. It's always a pleasure to be before the commission. I'm William Bradford. I think many of you know me, and I know most of you all around the table here. I'm a partner at the law firm of Blanchard, Walker, O'Quinn & Roberts. Ken Curtis works with us as well as a counsel there, and we will be working with them as local counsel, a larger group that is based between Atlanta and Houston on representation within the state of Louisiana and a couple of the other jurisdictions. So we're happy to be home and really working with the commission to try and move this forward. We have on the phone Chris Hollins from the Chris Hollins Law Group. And again, this is Eston Hood with EW Hood and Associates. He'll speak at the very end. I have Chris on the phone who's in Houston here. And I'm gonna see if I can work through our technical difficulties. Which microphone should I use, Jeff? This one?
One in front of you.
The one in front of me. Okay, I'm gonna be the prettiest microphone stand you've ever seen. Let's see. Chris, can you hear us?
I can, faintly. Can you all hear me okay?
Go for it, Chris.
Okay, fantastic. Well, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here with you all by phone this afternoon, and sad that I can't be there with you in person. But I wanted to talk to you about the importance of this litigation and, you know, the monetary damages that this parish has likely suffered because of that. Just to give you some quick background, and you may be familiar with this, but diabetes is an epidemic in the United States. Hundreds of billions of dollars are spent on diabetes in the United States. Nearly 1 in 4 of every dollar spent on healthcare is spent treating people with diabetes-related costs. And if we go back 100 years, if you got diagnosed with diabetes in the 1920s or before, that was a death sentence until insulin became available. And those who discovered insulin, knowing its life-saving ability, they sold that patent for $1 so that Americans and people across the world would be able to benefit from it. And that altruistic motive has been turned on its head to the point where now manufacturers of insulins and other diabetic medications and pharmacy benefit managers like Express Scripts, Caremark, and Optum have been essentially price fixing and extorting those who need these life-saving drugs. And we've seen example after example of people who are dying because they don't have access to this, who are suffering tremendously because they're trying to space out their medications to save money. But more to the point of what's happening here and how you and your employees have been affected, over the past 15 to 20 years, the 3 manufacturers of insulin, which are Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, and Sanofi, as well as the pharmacy benefit managers that I mentioned, who each control upwards of 90% of their respective markets. They have been engaged in an active conspiracy to raise the price of insulin and to pass those costs along to you in order to pad their own pockets and their profits. There's been a chart that I believe has been shared with you. And if you look at that chart, you can see over the course of decades how when one manufacturer of insulin increases their price, within literal days of one another, you'll see another increase from what's supposed to be a competitor. And this is happening again because of a price-fixing conspiracy. And this has robbed the market of billions of dollars. And to be clear, there is no market reason for these price increases. The insulin has not become more expensive to create. Insulin has not changed in the way that it's formulated and manufactured in any significant way in its 100-year history. And so what's happening is that these companies are using their oligopoly, their monopolistic powers, ultimately to starve the market, to engage in antitrust-related behavior, and ultimately to take money away from you as a self-insured employer. What I'm talking to you is not speculation. This has been documented in front of the U.S. Senate in open and sworn testimony. However, as Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, Caremark, Express Scripts have testified, they each point the finger at each other. But what we know is that each of them are guilty, and our hope is to pursue this matter and to achieve justice for you and for your employees. I represent Harris County in a similar matter. Harris County, of course, is where Houston is located in Texas. And Harris County was the first county in the country, the first locality in the country to file a suit like this. That having been said, the attorneys general in dozens of states have already filed on this, as well as many private self-insured employers, like Walmart, for example. In doing so, we have filed both in state court and federal court. Those claims have been removed to federal court. And we've survived numerous motions for dismissal because of the strength of these claims. And so our hope is that we can spend more time getting into the specifics of this parish's damages and potential claims, and to seek justice on your behalf. And we believe that justice would be to the tune of somewhere between $10 and $20 million. But of course, we would still need to dig into the specifics of the purchases of insulin, the prevalence of diabetes amongst your employees and their insured, their family members, as well as those who are in local jails who are served with these drugs as well. Now, I've spoken for a moment here, and so I'll pause. I'm happy to take and answer any questions. But of course, you also have a number of brilliant and skilled attorneys right there in front of you who may be able to address those same questions. So thank you again for taking the time to listen to us today. And we hope that we'll be able to represent you in this matter going forward.
Thanks, Chris. And of course, this being a prosecution of such a claim is based on contingency. This is not anything that the parishes has any upfront cost related to. We do want the opportunity to represent the parish, and that's part of why we're making the introduction today, answer any questions. I believe this will go back again for further discussion after today, so this won't be the only time you have a chance to ask questions, and we'll make sure to be responsive to all of those concerns that you have. I have with me E.W. Hood, Eston Hood from Atlanta, Georgia, who's also a part of this team, and I'd like to give him a few moments to speak and introduce himself, and then we'll open the floor up for any questions that you may have.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Eston Hood. I'm an attorney based out of Atlanta, Georgia. Had a great opportunity to attend Southern University Law Center, and great friend here, William Bradford, and Mr. Curtis Joseph. I'm very much appreciative of the opportunity to be here today. We're looking forward to working closely with you guys here. Again, this is not anything that's kind of speculative. Again, this is going before the United States Senate, and these guys have testified to this price-fixing scheme. They're all pointing the finger at each other. So, again, without any further ado, if you have any questions that you would like to ask now, we're more than happy to kind of answer those for you. And again, I'm also under the impression that there's a work session, well, not a work session, but a subcommittee that might take place subsequent to this, where we could also address questions that you have. So,
okay, let's see, Commissioner Hopkins, pardon me, Commissioner Epperson, you on the board? Okay, Commissioner Hopkins?
And I guess my question is, this is kind of paralleling the opioid suit that's going on in the state of Louisiana now. It's kind of like this, a little different, but it's similar.
It's the same premise, Commissioner.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no one else on the board, I'll just say, Dr. Wilson, what was your aspiration for today's discussion?
Yes, sir. This was informational purpose only for the day, and with the hopes of moving forward with some favorable resolution from this board to hire them to represent us. we have not been approached with anybody else.
Okay.
So
All right.
I think, it said there's no cost from the parish to pursue this, and I think it's a worthwhile endeavor to pursue.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Wilson. Thank you guys for stopping by and introducing us to this topic. We will discuss it further with our administration team. Oh, and Commissioner Jackson is now on the board. So I'll go back to you. Go ahead, Commissioner Jackson. All right, Commissioner Young.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President and Commissioner Jackson. I just wanted to ask, what is your contingency fee for this matter?
It'd be a 40% fee.
40%. Okay, thank you.
Was that 40? I couldn't hear you.
Yes, sir.
40. Commissioner Jackson.
It's getting a little worried. Your ears and your eyes not working.
Yeah, getting old.
Like my grandmother used to say, just keep getting up in the morning.
That was part of my, so is it 40% of the total, whatever settlement, if a settlement is reached?
Yes, sir. Correct.
Okay, so 40% of that, and then do we know how much we spend on insulin every year?
We could determine that. They have numbers as far as persons, but we'd have to dig deeper into our records to find that out.
If y'all could look at that, and I'm talking particularly about the jail, over at the jail. Because I believe, do we provide medical care for state prisons as well?
I think all.
Yes.
Or just check that and get back to me.
As long as they're housed.
And in the building, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Seeing no one else on the board, thank you all. We appreciate the information. And Dr. Wilson or Ms. Fraser will be back to you all regarding next steps.
Thank you all so much.
Thank y'all very much. Have a wonderful day. Did you get the pictures?
Okay,
Dr. Wilson, back to you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. We have an update for you on the Emergency Rental Assistance Program from Director Barnett.
Good afternoon, everyone. We have exhausted all but $62,000 of our, you can't hear me?
Probably not. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
We've exhausted all but $62,000 of our ERAP funding. That's with administrative fees and everything. We've expended a little bit over $42 million. We are in conversations now with the state of Louisiana to receive a ERAP 2 allocation. I've also applied for ERAP 2 allocations from the Treasury. I did that back in January. And then the state contacted me last week wanting to try to push some funds down to us from them. So there potentially is more funding coming, but I won't know that until I'll let you guys know when I know, but we're still talking through that. But without that funding, essentially our program is complete.
Commissioner Epperson, did you have a question?
No.
I'll clear you out. Commissioner Jackson, is you back on the board?
Wait till after the whole report.
Okay.
Yeah, after the whole report.
Okay, sorry, guys.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Commissioners, the next item we have 26 children in the Juvenile Detention Center as of today. 6 belong to OJJ, and 2 belong to the Rutherford House that were runaway kids. And we all currently have 9 children.
Did you say 26?
26 as of today.
In the detention center?
Yes, sir. And we have 6 of those kids belong to OJJ, and 2 of them are runaway kids for being housed there from the Rutherford House. And we think these numbers will change sometime this afternoon, first thing tomorrow. And also we have 9 children assigned residents at CCC. So when the 6 and the 2 belong to the Rutherford House leave, we'll be back down to 18, which is a comfortable manning level for us for operating the center. Okay, the next item we have, you should have your March 2022 financial report at your stations. And with that being said, that concludes my report. And I'll be glad to entertain any questions you may have.
I don't think we have. I don't think we got the March.
We don't have the financials.
I thought they emailed.
Okay, well.
We'll make sure you get those.
Okay.
We'll coordinate and make sure.
Is that it for you, Dr. Wilson?
Yes, sir. That concludes my report.
We got a couple of questions for you,
Yes,
Commissioner
sir.
Epperson, finally.
Yes, sir.
Seeing as how one of the monitors are out and it appears that they are both outdated, I'd like to make a motion that both of these monitors be replaced with similar monitors in size as the two in the background up here on the horseshoe as soon as possible.
Second.
We had a motion, Commissioner Jefferson, a second.
Even though it's
I
got
would
to
let
be
you
added
do
to
it.
it.
I'm just being sarcastic, but we want, that's what we want though, okay?
I think we can just.
Think we got a little money to get that?
Well, we had the funds. You want the big monitors?
We want, that's right. You see Mr. Atkins having problems seeing.
Especially for.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll work with the clerk and see how we can make that happen. But certainly, as not because of a lack of funds, we'll go ahead and start working on that.
Okay. Is that it, Commissioner Epperson?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Gage Watts?
Thank you, Mr. President. My question is in reference to the Juvenile Detention Center. We have 26 youth at the facility. And you said today that, are you saying by the end of today that will be resolved?
Yes, ma'am. Let me double check, because I talked to Clay earlier today. He said they were working on those numbers as of we speak.
So Mr. Randall's here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson.
How you doing, man?
Speak to. Yes, as to the children, specifically, as Dr. Wilson mentioned, the two children from the Rutherford House that were currently housed at the detention center, they were escapees from the Rutherford House, but they were actually from the jurisdictions of Natchitoches and Alexandria, respectively. I just left a meeting with the person from OJJ. They are moving them back to their respective parishes, which would clear up at least 2 spaces. And then the other children that are also in OJJ custody, they're making arrangements for them to be at appropriate facilities as well. And then court will be held tomorrow in our normal process of dealing with children who've been incarcerated with a continued custody hearing, which will also result in some openings in the facility as well. So.
Thank you. I guess that will provide the segue for my next question.
Okay.
Is there a compliance issue with having those 26 in the facility at this time, or do you have a 24-hour window?
We're at capacity at that number.
Okay.
We're at capacity now, so we won't be admitting any other children.
Okay. I think you answered my question. Because what I was asking, are we out of compliance at this time?
Oh, no, we're not we're in compliance.
Okay.
We're in compliance.
That was my question. Thank you.
So Randall, when will those, you expect the numbers to be back down to normal levels? Do you have an idea?
Well, in an immediate sense this afternoon, it may be happening now. When I left, they were making arrangements to move at least 2.
Okay.
Thank you, Randall.
Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Wilson, on the ERAP program, if you could let me know, probably send it out to everybody, how many people have hit the 15 months? Again, I don't need that now.
15 months. Okay.
All right, and you don't have to give me the names, but the total, our total population served altogether. So I think I heard y'all at one time say we served maybe 4,000. 14,000 folks. What's up?
Oh, this is something else, Randall.
Yep. Okay.
This is the emergency rental assistance program.
If I would,
Yes,
just
sir,
as a
go
point
ahead.
of clarity,
Sorry,
Dr.
Commissioner
Wilson,
Jackson, would you say-
sorry, I didn't mean, this is to address the question that Commissioner Stormy Gage Watts had asked with respect to the capacity, because I'm sure our capacity of the facility, we have 3 pods, of 8 apiece, which is 24, and I'm sure that's the number you most frequently hear. We have an additional 2 pods that are reserved for mental health or other sort of medical condition reservations. So technically, we could have up to 26 if there are no children that fit in either observation for mental health or some serious condition that would result in their separation from the rest of the pod. So we are at capacity, period, at this point.
Thank you.
Yes.
And that's where I was going with that.
Yes.
Because we wanted to make sure that we can publicly address that issue on the forefront, because I'm sure we'll hear it again.
Yes, I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you, Randall. Appreciate it. Thank you. Sorry, Mr. Jackson.
No, you're good. No, it's all good. No, Dr. Williams, if you could let me know, like I say, the total number served, but of that total number, how many have hit the 15-month cap, because it's capped out at 15 months, and then how many have applied but haven't been able to receive any support. Again, I don't need names, just looking for numbers. Also, how many arrears are we paying, if any, at the moment? Are we paying anybody arrears? And also, just on the technology, you know, just speaking, if we could also, in the conversation or whatever we do with these little monitors here, if we can figure out what happened to when a presentation was made, the audio came through these screens. 'Cause I remember there was a point in time back before some update was done that you could play a video and that audio would come through there as well, and it would show up on our monitors as well, and that's no longer the case. And if the technology no longer exists, it no longer exists, but that was an option at one particular point in time. So just some stuff to follow up with me on, and I'll probably, you know, reach out sometime next week if I hadn't heard anything back. But
Yeah.
and feel free to share it with everybody.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah,
That's
Mr.
it.
Jackson.
Thanks, Mr. Yes, sir.
To answer your question, I think the program is the ERAP program is a year old now.
Uh-huh.
Is that correct, Ms. Haley?
2 years.
Yes, sir. A year old. Actually, we implemented
I'm
in
sure,
April,
yeah, 2021.
April of last year.
Yeah.
So we hit the year mark threshold, actually being actively, you know, giving out grants for housing assistance, for rental assistance.
Right.
But we did pay up to 3 months in arrears, so we'll get that data for you.
I'm sorry, I'm lost. What?
We did pay up to 3 months in arrears, I believe.
We paid in arrears up to the pandemic beginning, which was March 2020. So just as the most current draw, we had a new applicant that had 10 months in arrears, and so we were able to pay the 10 months in arrears plus 3 months forward. So they got 13 months right away.
Oh.
So it just that the answers to your questions are I can achieve,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not going to be so much as to. It's going to be hard to gauge as far as, because we're still paying arrears if you apply and you meet all the verification
Mhm.
and you're a new applicant, but most people that we're paying now are not new applicants, so they don't necessarily have arrears anymore, because we stopped our application process in January.
Oh, yeah, no, I get exactly what you're saying. I
Yeah,
think
so-
the conversation, because my understand, or at least what I was told, was that the legislature was going to kind of dictate how the ERAP $2 would be appropriated. And what my concern is that they have set on ERAP $2 when there's been an immediate need here for those dollars. And we have a need. And I saw somewhere where somebody was sleeping in a car yesterday, and the points that I made to a couple of legislators was that it's one thing to say we don't have resources, but the resources are here sitting in the state, and folks could be getting help right now. And I guess my frustration with the state right now is they've set on ERAP $2, to your point, for almost a year at this point. Well, probably not ERAP 2.
That was May.
Right, but coming up on a year.
Coming up on a year.
They set on $158 million for almost a year when we knew this need was out there, and so.
We would certainly, we don't want to break in our service.
Right. Absolutely.
So the money
No.
would be
So
appreciated.
I get what you're saying, Haley. I think you're absolutely right, and I agree. I just want to be able to put some numbers in front of our legislators so that they can see that there's a need like now for it, because I think Treasury put out some guidance about reallocation. I think is it going to be in May when they're going to do their reallocation or whatever?
Yes.
And so.
And the state reached out to me after they got that, and so I've been in constant communication
Yeah.
with them, trying to get more and more funds, and and I put in what I would need to get me through the whole year. I've
Right.
done all that math with them. I have a meeting with them on Monday to try to, I can only ask them.
No, yeah.
So I have been asking and filling out all the.
But it's like they didn't know, though. It's not like they had known.
Right,
So.
I've been in constant
Yeah.
begging communication with them to get more money, because it's harder for me and my staff when
Mhm.
the funding stops and then we have to gear back up. And it's harder for the people to understand
Right. Start and
that
stop.
question
Right.
in our calls. It's hard to explain it. So we've been really trying to get more funding so we don't have to pause.
Okay.
But at this point, we're gonna have to pause.
Okay, and did y'all get in touch? I think Judge Sheva Sims was trying to get in, did y'all get?
That was 3 or 4 weeks ago, I think.
yeah.
Yeah, I helped them.
Okay, all right. That's it. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, Commissioner Jackson, thank you. Anybody else? Seeing no one else on the board. Dr. Wilson, is that it for you?
Yes, sir. Sir, yeah, thank you.
All right, Mr. Clerk?
All right, did you have a president's report?
No, I'm good.
All right, we'll move along. We have no
Well,
old
we have
business.
commission remarks, though.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were including that in who might be on the board.
Well, no, I assume those were questions for administration, but
Right.
we can clear that up soon enough by asking, does anyone like to get on the board for communiques or remarks? Seeing no one?
That's a first. All right, then we have no old business scheduled today, and so we will move forward to new business, where our first item is to authorize the introduction of ordinance number 6226 of 2022. That's an ordinance to authorize the administrator to execute a pipeline servitude and right-of-way agreement with Magnolia Midstream Gas Services LLC regarding a pipeline through and under parish property located in sections 31 and 32, Township 17 North, Range 15 West, in Caddo Parish, Louisiana, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. This is in District 12.
Move for advancement to Thursday.
We had a motion to advance from Commissioner Epperson and a second from Commissioner Lazarus. Commissioner Epperson, any comments on your motion?
No, sir.
Commissioner Jackson, you're on the board.
Yes, just in the interest of time, I'd like to move to global and advance. Ordinance number 6226, ordinance number 6227, and ordinance number 6228 at this time.
Okay, motion to englobo and advance items 6226, 6227, and 6228. A second by Commissioner Young. Commissioner Jackson, would you like to speak on that motion?
Yeah, the only one that I really would like to speak on is 6228. It is I did agree to take $40,000 from the vaccine coordination effort because Commissioner Burrell asked me. But on Thursday, I'll make a motion to reduce that portion from the wheelchair and roof repair program in the amount of $40,000. So I do think the vaccination coordination is still essential. It's still important. There's a group that is working toward planning some stuff for that. So I don't want folks to think that vaccine coordination is not still a priority within our ARP funding. We still have a couple of years. So the goal is not to try to spend all the money in 1 year, but just for, is this the crime lab guy? Are you the crime? Okay, I was trying to figure out, I try to figure out who's where when I come in. It's kind of a little game that I play in my head. But yeah, I was okay with doing that. I talked to Commissioner Burrell, and it basically, we've appropriated these dollars here, Haley, Dr. Wilson. These dollars have been appropriated, so this is no extra strain on our budget. So I was fine with that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, I wanted to amend 6227 to be approved on the May first regular session meeting instead of for Thursday.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
All right.
Yeah, I'll accept it as an amended motion.
All right, so we have a motion to amend item 6227 to have it approved in the May regular session.
First May regular session.
First May regular session.
It would be.
No, it would be done Thursday.
That's for introduction by title.
Oh, my bad.
That's the way over anyway.
No. Oh, I'm looking at something else. I'm bad.
So did you still, is that
No.
timing okay, or is it? Okay.
Strike
I was looking
that?
at something else. Yes.
Strike that?
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Gage Watts.
Yes, I just wanted to please add me as a sponsor for ordinance number 6228. It's a co-sponsor also.
Okay, we'll add Commissioner Stoneman Gage
I
Watts
got the
to.
thumbs up from Jeff. That's all that matters. Thank you.
I can't understand what she says, but we're gonna add her to 6228. All right, Commissioner Hopkins?
I guess my question is the green infrastructure. What exactly is that? So, I mean, I just want to be sure that.
Y'all approved these.
That was approved under ARP.
Okay, well, I was out Thursday, so that's why I'm asking.
That was ARP, green initiative, various things throughout the parish. You have to
Okay.
be vetted by the ARP process. It was brought before the group by Commissioner John Paul Young, sir.
Okay. Since I was unable to attend last Thursday, I wanted to make sure exactly what that was. So,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
That's the second time that happened.
Okay, so seeing no one else on the board, let's vote to advance 6226, 6227, 6228.
And that motion carries with 11 in support and none in opposition, 1 absent. That brings us to 10.4, authorizing resolution number 26 of 2022. That's a resolution urging and requesting the Louisiana legislature to allow local planning and zoning issues to be resolved by local governing entities and opposing legislation to the contrary and otherwise providing with respect thereto.
Move to advance with approval in the first regular session in May.
Second.
We have a motion to advance by Commissioner Johnson, a second by Commissioner Jones to advance with the approval occurring in the first special session in May.
Regular session.
First regular session in May, sorry. All right, any other comments on that, Commissioner Johnson?
I just think there's something that some of the commissioners will be out Thursday, so give all the commission an opportunity to vote on it. It's something that seems is coming from the state to try to handcuff us in what we do. And so I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to speak on it and to vote on it for that Thursday.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, President. I know I requested a fact sheet on here, and I saw it this morning. Thank you, Attorney Frazier. Mr. Everson, can we make sure that it gets added on here?
We will.
Okay. And it's confusing because I've had a lot of constituents reach out saying that they were against this, that they wanted their voice to be heard, but then if you read the title, it sounds to the contrary. So it's very confusing. So I think maybe we need a good explanation on what's going on here. And Attorney Frazier, we can either do that now or when the fact sheet is in front of everybody, maybe on Thursday we can do that. But let's set aside some time that we need some explanation on this.
But let them do it now.
You want to do it right now?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay.
And I can send it, Attorney Frazier just briefly did send us the fact sheet this morning, but we've been in that
I understand.
a committee meeting since then, so I didn't have the time to upload it, but we do have it.
Sure, and I know you've seen the emails. I've got a lot of traffic commissioners, I'm sure you have too, and people are saying they oppose this because they want their voice to be heard, but then simultaneously it's literally in the sentence title stating that they want zoning at a local level. So I'm confused on what the citizens are saying.
Local to them means individual.
Right.
Basically, Commissioner, what this bill would do is prior to there being any zoning in unincorporated areas, and we'll use Caddo Parish for an example, it would put the commission in a situation where you would get an ordinance zoning a new area, and then before that ordinance is effective, you would have to call an election and get a majority vote of the citizens as to whether you all could actually enact the ordinance. That's backwards. And that's not the way the constitutional scheme is set up. Basically,
Yeah, I got a question for my bad though.
and basically what it is now, the way it's set up is you all get your recommendations from your planning and zoning board, and then you choose whether or not to enact the ordinances at public hearings that citizens are allowed to attend, and the ordinances have to be in line with the comprehensive scheme that has to be set out. All of that is set out constitutionally. This circumvents what's in the Constitution for, or the bill would circumvent what's in the Constitution as far as how passing ordinances for zoning are supposed to go.
how is it read in the constitution of the other 63 parishes? Is it the way that
No,
we?
this is the entire state of Louisiana. The entire state of Louisiana, if any parish wants to zone, they are allowed to zone subject to a comprehensive scheme. The local government is the zoning authority, is the last word on the zoning authority, unless somebody challenges the local government via lawsuit.
Okay, I'm going to yield because I know we got some more questions and that may help clarify. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Chavez. Commissioner Hopkins.
Now, when I first read 962, I actually got excited because I've said, I think in here multiple times, let's let the people vote whether they want zoning or not zoning in the unincorporated areas of the parish. But I went back a couple different times and read it, and then I got concerned because there's a lot of questions, one being constitutionality of it. The other thing is there's no fiscal note to this. And usually bills have a fiscal note.
Yes.
And so, you know, we need a fiscal note of what it's just going to affect Caddo Parish.
Yes, sir.
We also need to know something from our realtors and something from our developers, because it will affect their business. Because if you bring something forward at the wrong time, you've missed your qualifying point. Now it's got to lay over to like a November or October election. So now we're slow business down.
Right, that's correct.
So there's a lot of questions. I'm not prepared to vote for this resolution at this time. I'm not going to vote for it. I think we've got more information we need to get and bring back to the table. So, I mean, that's just the way I'm going to do on this one. I'm going to vote no because there's still too many questions. You know, when we get into zoning, it's a nasty tiger is what it is. It always has been. It always will be.
A nasty
And
what?
At least Texas gets it right. Then most unincorporated areas of their counties are not zoned. So-
And Commissioner, you do understand that the resolution is to oppose the bill?
Right, right.
Okay.
Right,
Just wanted to make
right.
sure.
I'm not gonna oppose it at this moment, because I want more information. I want the fiscal note information, and I would like to hear from the realtors and developers in Caddo Parish, because it will affect them, and even other businesses that try to bring their business to Caddo, it may affect it. So we need to know all that before we start jumping yes and no against it and for it and all this. I'd like to have at least that information. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hopkins. Commissioner Epperson.
That was one of my concerns. What, you know, back in a few years back, they were saying unfunded mandates. So, well, if somebody's gonna make a law to tell us what to do and what to vote on, they certainly should contact us or either put some money up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's almost a joke to me. We have our so-called legislative priorities, and one while we used to hold a little dinner or something, and we tell them what we want and what we're concerned with, and hell, before they even go down there was 1,100 bills that was pre-filed before the March 14th beginning of this legislative session. Some of them stupid as hell. And I have an issue with, we have basically some of the same constituents as these state legislatures do. I think my district may have 3 state legislators in it and 2 Senate parts of Senate districts in it. Nobody says anything to us, but they want to put something in place. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't care what they do. I'm going to oppose anything of this nature from this point on. We've had this zoning in place since its inception. I don't know when it started. I guess probably 3 or 4 decades. And hell, it's worked. But then, as I stated, all of a sudden somebody get a burr under their saddle and they want to tear up the whole thing, cut off their nose to spite their face. and then get some idiots to go down and throw any kind of legislation up on the wall and see if it'll stick. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Epperson. Commissioner Talaferro.
Thank you, Mr. President. Commissioner Todd, sorry, had a brain moment there. He did address the timeline concern of mine. For Attorney Frazier, those parishes that don't have a home rule charter, how will they be affected if something like this is passed?
Basically, from my reading of the legislation, there is no exception. So that would affect them the same way as well. They still have to have, subject to the current legislation, a comprehensive plan. So they would also have to call elections if they wanted to zone any areas that may currently be unincorporated in their parish.
Okay, but because we are home rule, do we not have the option of going with it or going not, or not going with it? We have more latitude than those parishes that don't have home rule?
I would say in this particular instance, Commissioner, you don't. One of our arguments would be that this, if we chose to fight it via a lawsuit, that this would impair our legislative ability or our ability to enforce our home rule charter. But that's something we would have to take to court to get a ruling on. So it'd be better if it were stopped here than if it were passed.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Talaferro. Commissioner Jackson.
Yeah, I have some concerns about the legislation, and one of the concerns that I had was it looked like it was filed like the day before the deadline for filing bills for this session was. So do we know if is this a local bill or is this a constitutional amendment?
It's not a constitutional amendment. It's amendment to the zoning statutes that are in the state statute, and it's not
a local bill. Okay, so that's how I got around the local advertising.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what about cities does this apply to cities or is this only applicable to parishes? Because cities have zoning as well. And so and I may be getting down in the minutia here, but how do you make the distinction between, shouldn't the same apply to city zoning and planning as it does to parish zoning and planning?
I see where you're going, Commissioner, but cities are incorporated as a matter of definition.
Right.
So this is for new zoning in unincorporated areas, which is why it would only apply to a parish, because there's not going to be an unincorporated area within a city.
Okay. And so in this case, there is no zoning sort of north of a certain area in Caddo Parish. So is there zoning there already? I thought we established that there was no zoning there.
There is no zoning there. We have issues that we're waiting to be resolved once we have the planning structure in place, that there could potentially be some level of zoning, or more than likely would be recommended that there be some level of zoning in those unincorporated areas.
And this would basically require a election to do that at any time.
Basically, anytime you all wanted to put zoning there or change it, you would have to have an election. And
is that a
if nothing else
parish-wide? Is that a
I'm sorry.
parish-wide election? Is that a parish-wide election?
That is my reading of it, yes.
So you're gonna have people who live in the city of Shreveport.
That's correct.
Who they say that they don't want involved in their business, making or trying. I'm just trying to understand who came up with this and the logic behind this, because it seems to do exactly what they say, and I have been preaching this. It seems to do exactly what they say they don't want, and so and Commissioner Johnson, if I understand your motion correct, your motion was to just introduce and kind of park this, because I heard Commissioner Hopkins said that he don't want to vote on it now, but I just seem to think that what we're doing here is we're moving it forward and kind of parking it for a while, so we would have time to kind of get those questions resolved. Did I understand your motion correct? So we're not voting on this on Thursday?
We don't vote on it Thursday. We vote on it the first regular session in May.
Okay. So I just, my reservation with this is the timing of it. I don't know where it's gonna come up on the legislative calendar. I did get some calls on I think last week or week before when it was filed. And I just think that it's, to me, in reading the bill and my understanding and hearing the attorney's interpretation, which kind of validate what I thought it was, is it really creates a situation where you're gonna have the city of Shreveport or residents who live in the city of Shreveport will be making the decision, because I just don't believe it's enough folks. The numbers game will come into play. Not to mention how crazy I think this is from a timing perspective when it comes to economic development. We'll never have a project
Commissioner
come to
Jackson,
Shreveport.
could I just hop in and make a little or ask for some clarification?
Sure.
Because with your pleasure, at your pleasure.
Sure.
The document actually says an election of the unincorporated area of the parish voting at an. Can you read it for me, Commissioner Parliamentary?
So the amendment in this is in section D. It says no regulation or restriction shall become effective in an unincorporated area of a parish until after a proposition authorizing the regulation or restriction has been approved by a majority of the electors of the unincorporated area of the parish.
So that answers my question about, is it a parish-wide election? Okay, so then that creates another legal matter, because how do you have an election that is not, that makes a parish determination that doesn't include, that's to me, that's disenfranchising some voters in Caddo Parish. So I think it's really getting down a slippery slope from a legal perspective. My hope is that all cities and parishes are taking a look at this and will, come one way or the other on it. I get people have hard feelings about planning and zoning here in Caddo Parish, and I just think to open this up in this kind of way without any kind of previous conversation or meeting of the minds, I just think it really sends us down a slippery slope, because you're gonna have, unless this is some type of zone or district that's been created, I don't see how you can say that you're gonna have an election. Like, how can the registrar of voters schedule an election just for the unincorporated areas? By precinct. Okay. So a person who lives across the street will go vote, and the person who,
And that's one of the reasons.
I'm sorry, I apologize.
That is one of the reasons why we would be recommending some level of zoning in all areas of the parish,
Gotcha.
because it's an equal
Right, it's
protection
an
issue.
equal protection issue. Everybody should be on a level playing field, at least we think. And to me, this kind of takes everybody off that level playing field, and that's my concern. So I'm okay with moving it forward and parking it for a while. It seems like we have 2 weeks to discuss it, if I understand the motion correct. So, but it's a concern, and it really should be a concern for those of us who have a concern about economic development coming to Caddo Parish. I just think this sends a bad message. Because Amazon was zoned before they got here. Isn't that correct, Alan? A lot of developments now, they want to get their zoning before they make their decision.
That's correct.
And so I just really think we're opening up a door that's going to hurt us in the future. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. This House bill is really garbage, in my opinion. It handcuffs local governments, not just Caddo Parish, but all 64 parishes, to say that you gotta have an election before you change a zoning area. just like we talked about, Commissioner Jackson talked about economic development. You already know, and everybody on this body knows that economic development is fast paced if it's gonna come. And you don't have time to set up an election. You set up an election in Caddo Parish is about $200,000.
200.
So now you out of money. Every parish will be out of money to call for the election if there's a change. If you're talking about getting some type of manufacturing facility, they can't build those in the city limits. That's gonna have to be built in an unincorporated area. And something that you already wanna have, you know, in a good proximity somewhere, which in Caddo and a lot of places in Louisiana, it's rural, agriculture. So you're gonna be changing that to some kind of commercial kind of ground, and the person who owns the property is gonna be trying to sell it so that he can get that money, because it's gonna be more money for him to be commercial than it would be to stay as what it is. So this handcuffs us. I mean, I know sometimes y'all say, well, we don't want to do these resolutions, moving things up, urging and requesting that these other bodies do this kind of stuff. Well, this is one that's going to hamper us and hamper all the other police jurors in the state of Louisiana by saying that you got that call for the election. What about those parishes that don't have ample money? And they get a chance to get a major company to come into the area as a one-time winner. Well, due to timing in the election process, they're gonna miss out on that. We already missed a boat on so many other things because of taxes and the way that our tax structure is set up. Now we're gonna put something else in to say we gotta vote on it and let the people in that particular area vote on it. Well, they all could be fine wanting wherever it is to stay out. But you could have other individuals in this parish that wants that company to come so they can go get a job for quality of life improvement. So, I mean, if we go through the process the right way and we hear the cases as they come about, I think that's the reason why we got elected, to do those kind of things and not to pass it back to the citizens to tell us what to do on it. I mean, what's the purpose of being a commissioner or a police juror or a council person or a mayor or alderman if you cannot have? That's why your constituents are supposed to call and talk to you, and y'all can work things out to get to an answer that you can vote upon. So I opposed it when I first saw it, and I figured that it would be an easy one to go through. I know some areas gonna vote a certain way because of politics, but this is for the embellishment of Caddo Parish. You know, when you look at Caddo, 20 years behind on about everything that goes on, 20 years behind, because we want to stay in this comfort zone instead of going out and being more progressive. And I just think we got to get off the pot. It's time for that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Dr. Wilson.
Yes, sir. Commissioners, when I first read this this bill, I thought immediately, I thought of overreaching. The legislature was trying to tell commissioners how to do their jobs. And I don't always state the political position, but reading this, it's hard not to, because we had the last bill that was passed that affected our zoning efforts, and it had a lot of unintended consequences to it. No one asked us what we thought about it. So here's another bill asking us, didn't ask us what we thought about it, but here it is that, you know, we got to deal with it. It does create a situation where we're going to have to spend money for elections every time you make a change in your zoning. To me, that's just crazy. And I agree with Commissioner Hopkins, it may not even be timely. And I agree with Commissioner Jackson. Economic development, why would I want to come here if I can't get my project zoned properly before I even get here? Then if you have to call an election to do it, I'll go somewhere else. So that's the reality. Our Resolution 26 is opposing this bill because it needs to be opposed. Because it's far overreaching, and I think, Commissioner Johnson said, your constituents elected you all to make tough decisions, and that's part of it. You make tough decisions, but to call an election every time you want to make a change, it doesn't seem to be very practical to me. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Seeing no one else on the board, we have a motion to advance resolution number 26 to the first session, the first regular session in May.
Which is May 5th.
Voting yes here would advance this resolution, which opposes the state legislation, the proposed state legislation. Just want to make sure everybody knows what they're voting for. All right, Mr. Clerk, let's have a vote.
And that motion carries with 10 in support and 1 in opposition. That brings us, and then 1 absent, I'm sorry. That brings us to authorizing a special resolution of recognition and appreciation for Robert J. Wright.
Move to approve the resolutions for Robert J. Wright, Pastor Calvin Austin, and Coach Mac Jones, and the appointments to the North Shreveport Industrial Board, and authorizing Mr. R.J. Johnson.
Second.
We had a motion by Commissioner
To
Epperson.
advance, I'm sorry, to advance.
Second by Chavez.
Oh, that was by Jackson? Sorry. Motion by Commissioner Jackson, seconded by Chavez, to advance the resolution in recognition of Mr. Robert J. Wright, the recognition and appreciation of Zeta Phi Beta, the resolution of recognition and
We've already done the Zeta Phi Beta.
Okay, right. Resolution of recognition and appreciation for Pastor Calvin Austin III. Authorize special resolution and appreciation and recognition for Louisiana AAA Coach of the Year. Reappointments to the North Shreveport Industrial Park Board. And one more, Commissioner Jackson?
Authorizing the
The
appointment
R.J.
of
Johnson.
R.J. Johnson.
The appointment of R.J. Johnson to the Caddo Parish Citizens Advisory Committee. We had a motion and a second. Any comments on your motion, Commissioner Jackson?
No.
All right, Commissioner Johnson.
Yeah, I wanted to be added to the resolution of recognition and appreciation to Pastor Calvin Austin III, and for the Mac Jones Huntington Coach of the Year,
Okay, you got those, Mr. Clerk?
Got it.
and also the Zeta Phi Beta.
Okay.
Put me on that one too.
Okay. That it?
That's it.
Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, Chairman. Can you also add Commissioner Taliaferro on the recognition for Robert J. Wright, Clerk?
Absolutely.
Thank you. That's all, President.
Commissioner Gage Watts.
Thank you. I would like to be added as a co-sponsor for Coach Mac Jones, as well as Pastor Calvin Austin.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Taliaferro.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Commissioner Chavez. I'd also like to be added as a co-sponsor for the resolution for Calvin Austin as well, please.
Thank you. Commissioner Epperson.
Point of information, okay, during the proclamations, or resolutions, is there a signature space for all 12 commissioners?
Sometimes.
Don't we all?
Now, Mr. Clerk, I'll refer to you on that.
Oh, it's not a given?
It depends on the item. Sometimes on every one of them, you have a signature of the officers, the president, vice president, and then the sponsoring, the person who originated the resolution. And then on some items where it appears there are a lot of co-sponsors or there's unanimous support, that kind of thing, we'll put all 12 commissioners on it. So it is.
So basically, every resolution proclamation, we all voted on it, right? Very seldom it's okay. I'm done through.
Okay.
On point, sir.
What's that? All right, I think we are ready to vote, Mr. Clerk.
Okay. And that motion carries with 11 in support and 1 absent. That brings us to the next item on your agenda, which is 10.11. That's authorizing the adoption and recommendation of the Alcoholic Beverage Committee for selling to underage persons.
Move to adopt.
Second.
To advance.
A motion to adopt and advance from Commissioner Johnson, a second from Commissioner Lazarus. Would you like to comment, Commissioner Johnson?
I think the committee went through each one of those cases, heard the both sides, and then make the recommendation to the full body.
That's correct. All right, seeing no one on the board, let's vote, please.
And that motion carries with 11 in support, 1 absent. That brings us to the next item, which is to authorize the commission to authorize the parish administrator to review current NGO application process with local professional grant-making organizations and make recommendations to the commission in 30 days.
Move to Thursday.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Jackson, second by Commissioner Hopkins to remove to Thursday. Would you like to comment, Commissioner Jackson?
No, this is just this gives the administrator, I know we've had some conversation about just needing to review our process. This action item doesn't predict any outcome. It just asks the administrator to reach out to some professionals to review it. It may come back as great, it may come back as not great, and so just review it and get it to us and let us know what they think. So that's it.
Okay. Commissioner Hopkins.
And I would just like to ask the administration if you would get that information along with the, our auditor.
Yes.
I know they came up with some ideas, and bring that back, and bring that information back to our NGO committee, and let them, let us sit as a committee and look at it originally, and then we can go to the full body from there.
Sounds like a good plan.
So are you amending that to send to the-
Commissioner
You
Johnson.
have to amend that.
I'll be voting against this. For one, the NGO committee was basically formed, if I'm not mistaken, for riverboat gambling, to be able to get parish monies into the city, the inner city, to help uplift those organizations. By removing the money or saying that you want to drop them because they've been on too long, does nothing but put us back. Some of those, whether they do it openly, say it or not, they hopefully budget some of this money into their programs. Whether they get the full amount or not depends on what they'll ultimately do. We all know that it's hard for minority nonprofits to raise private dollars as opposed to other nonprofits. And so to do that, to me, is a slap in the face to them. The other part I don't understand is that the Economic Development Committee follows the same path as the NGO, pretty much, just a different set of money. But you basically have so many organizations that you weed down in order to approve. But that one wasn't added into this process. So based on the history of the NGO and the application process, basically went from a page and a half to what we have now. I think we did make some strong push to get more information. Some of the information on there I really don't think should be on there, like who is your current commissioner, stuff like that doesn't matter to me. Like I mentioned the other day, when you have an organization with a physical address in one district and you have board members that are in other districts and you have a program in another district, who are they to talk to? So if it's in Caddo Parish and it's for the citizens of Caddo Parish, it should be voted upon as if it is a nonprofit in Caddo Parish. So I'll be voting no on this, and y'all vote yes, that's fine. We'll follow whatever the majority wants to do, but I just feel that it's not necessary. There was an audit on this, and those recommendations we didn't adopt, so it is what it is right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Talaferro.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one quick point of clarification, Dr. Wilson. I just want to make it clear that if you decide that this the review of the current application process can take place within our own administration, instead of going out and hiring somebody, you would do that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah,
And do you think that we do have the resources and the talent to do that?
Yes, sir. We have some notes for the past that we looked at this before, and we also have the internal auditors give us some recommendations as well.
Correct.
So we'll start there first and see what our records say towards making improvements. But at the end of the day, is this board's pleasure, and what do y'all want to see happens with that particular process? In the past, up until 2009, the administrator had a major role in the program, and then the board took the administrator out of it. And so now I don't have any recommendations towards it, no good or bad. Just before I did have a recommendation, but the change in 2009 changed that to what we currently have, and for several iterations of changes over the years. But at the end of the day, the board decide what they'd like to see that program, how to operate, per se. We'll make recommendations, but at the end of the day, it's still the commissioners.
Yes, sir, and thank you. I guess my concern is always to have the best, since we are in a position to have the best practices going forward,
Yes, sir.
to obviously make the NGO application process the best that it could possibly be, and to accommodate those people applying.
Yes, sir.
I want to just pull out all the stops necessary for us to go forward.
Yes, sir.
With a great process. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner Telfair. Commissioner Jackson.
This will be my second time, so y'all might.
Okay. Me. I was just going to make a comment. I think it's always prudent to evaluate one's processes and procedures and make sure that we're doing what is best for the organization. So I'll be supporting this proposal. Just ensure that we're operating on best practices. That's it for me. Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, Chair. I know the PNN did a analysis of the NGOs. It may be time to dust that off and pull it back out. I'm not exactly sure, and although I agree with the spirit of this, I don't know if asking local professional grant-making organizations is exactly the entities that we should be asking. I think more like the PNN, because another grant-making organization is just an entity that does the same thing that the NGOs are doing. So I'm not exactly sure if asking them for their recommendations on are we doing a good job. Let's face it, they write a grant and they hope that the feds or us or the city gives them capital to do their program. I think we should be looking more at an organization like a CPA or a banker or somebody that manages budgets to look if we're doing what we should be doing in regards to our budget from the parish, and then vetting the organizations that are requesting the grants from us. Just my 2 cents on that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Chavez. Commissioner Jackson, second time.
Yeah, I want to just kind of clarify some things. I'll start with Commissioner Chavez. The grant-making organizations I was contemplating are local, the Community Foundation, United Way, Grayson, those organizations, and they would just kind of just review and just give some ideas. They wouldn't necessarily be making any decisions, and they don't ask for any, they don't write grants. I think their stuff is philanthropic. So those are the organizations I'm talking about, not the organizations that come here to get funding from us to make recommendations. So that's when I say grant-making organizations. The other thing, to Commissioner Telfair's point, is I don't contemplate this costing us anything. So I want to be clear that this should, I hope that Dr. Wilson can pick up the phone and call somebody.
If it would, we would require an ordinance.
Right, it would require an
to
ordinance to appropriate dollars. So I don't contemplate this costing us anything. I just want to make sure that we have the opportunity. The other thing that I want to discuss is that this action item contemplates no outcome. And I talked to the clerk and I talked to administration on how I can make this as vague as possible, as broad as possible, because it may very well come back that everything is good. What you got in place is great. And so to say that this is going to do something or X somebody out is arbitrary. I worked for a minority nonprofit for 6 years, and we annually brought in about $7 to $8 million worth of revenue, and never once came down to ask Caddo Parish for 1 penny, or the city of Shreveport for 1 penny. We put fees, sliding scale fees in place. We billed Medicaid when Medicaid services were billable. We held fundraisers when it was time to hold fundraisers. And so there are nonprofits all across the city that are doing that. What I see with certain nonprofits is that they have a propensity to just, instead of trying to work towards solutions, they just turn to what is easy. But again, that's not what this contemplates. That's just my opinion. What I'm trying to see what we can do is what best practices, do we have the best practices in place, or can we put some other best practices in place? So not trying to X anybody out, trying to see how we can be more inclusive of those organizations that have new ideas or new concepts, or those that are being the most impactful, to bring those that are being the most impactful in. So again, Dr. Wilson, I hope that you would take all of those things into consideration. If you get to the 30-day point and say, I hadn't come to my conclusions, or don't have any recommendations, let us know in enough time so we can extend this beyond the 30 days. But I'm just trying to make sure that we can get the most informed information out there as we make these decisions. So I don't want this to be anything that anybody feels is adversarial or trying to help or hurt anybody. I just want us to get a process in place that is equitable and fair for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. All right. We are ready for a vote here.
And that motion carries with 8 in support and 3 in opposition and 2 absent, I believe. No, I'm sorry, 1 absent. That brings us to the next item, which is to authorize commission to select 2 representatives to participate in the Sequential Intercept mapping workshop. This was a request that came in last week to our office, and I reached out to President Atkins to put it on the agenda. Below you see a little description of what this is, but it's essentially asking 2 commissioners to participate, or the commission to select 2 members at least or more to participate in a 2-day workshop that will focus on issues.
Move to approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Jackson.
Second.
A second from, who was that?
Chavez.
A second from Chavez. Commissioner Jackson, any comments?
Yeah, and my understanding, Jeff, is this the one from Laura Alderman?
It is.
So my understanding is that they want 2 commissioners. I'm already participating from my work capacity, so
Okay.
feel free not to. And I think Commissioner Gage Watts may already be.
Well, I'll encourage any commissioners who are
Yeah.
any commissioners who are interested in participating to please reach out to Commissioner or clerk, the clerk of the commission, so that we can coordinate. I encourage anyone who would like to participate to do so, and we'll just go from there.
And Jeff, if let's just say some commissioners don't have the time, could he appoint maybe Clay Walker or something? Because I know they're going to be looking at, this is kind of looking at youth or something like that.
Yeah, I believe so. I know that their hope is that commissioners themselves would be able to
Right.
participate, but I did phrase it in such a way that if y'all
Okay.
select somebody who's not an actual commissioner, you do have the ability to do that in case it doesn't, in case nobody's schedules work with that.
So Jeff, if you'll kind of keep an eye on that and let us know what our count is, and I don't want to go, are they limiting us to 2? Are they asking us to limit it to 2, or are they?
They'd like to, though I think they would be open to more, and I'll certainly reach out to them if we have more than 2 commissioners who are interested in participating at that level. I'll be glad to reach out to them and
if
verify
by
that.
chance we only have 1 commissioner who's able to participate, I think we're all interested, but if we only have 1 who's able to participate, maybe you can help us find someone from administration to fill the gap.
Certainly.
Okay, thank you. Let's vote, please.
All right, that motion passes with 10 in support and 2 absent. That next item, it brings us to authorizing the commission to authorize the administration to enter into a contract with the African American Chamber of Commerce to administer the Small Business Economic Recovery Program.
Move to advance to Thursday.
We have a
Second.
motion by Commissioner Jackson, a second by Commissioner Lazarus. Commissioner Jackson, any comment?
Yeah, this sounds better than cash mob.
Yeah.
So, and we had a meeting with the chamber. I appreciate you, Dr. Wilson, and Ms. Bryant, for coordinating that, and they're happy with it. So this would just basically designate them as the organization to work with it.
And this has, although you are attached to it, it actually did go through and pass through the Economic
Correct.
Development
It did.
Committee.
Correct.
Thank you.
So
any
Jeff,
other-
do you get that note? It did pass the ED committee as well.
I'm sorry?
It did pass the ED committee as well, so you might want to put that on the agenda.
I will.
Commissioner Johnson.
I just wanted to know what the Small Business Economic Recovery Program was, but
It
I heard
was
you
the
say it.
cash amount.
Yeah. I'm good.
You good?
Yeah.
Okay. Seeing no one else on the board, let's vote, please.
All right, and that motion carries with 11 in support and 1 absent. That brings us to communicating committee reports.
Commissioner Johnson.
I'm not on the board. That was
No,
from
that's
the
old.
last deal. Right.
Commissioner Jackson.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't ask when we, do you mind if I ask a
Please
question?
do. Come on up.
The funding for the crime lab, and, hey, I thought we was gonna be out about 15 minutes, 20 minutes ago, but the House bill, thank Danny McCormick for that, for you having to stay. But the crime lab funding, we adopt y'all's budget sort of as a pass-through or something, and we had been noticing that there was some issues with regard to the deficits and stuff like that. So then we got this request about needing funding to fill a gap. And I've asked this of everybody. If I had made the meeting today, I would have asked the meeting at the Economic Development Committee meeting today. Do y'all anticipate this being an annual situation that y'all find yourself in?
Yeah, we're working, that's a great question, Commissioner Jackson. What we've seen really since 2017 is a continued decline in our primary source of revenue, which is court costs. And unfortunately, it puts me in a difficult position where I am forced to kind of predict the future. And so as court costs, if they continue to decline, I anticipate we will be in a similar situation each year. If they bounce back, which half the the people I talk to think they will, then I would imagine we'd be fine. I wish I could answer your question, but it would solely depend upon court costs. I know crime isn't decreasing.
Mm-hmm. I guess that depends on is what the diversion, criminal diversion.
Correct.
I'm just trying to figure out how does, if crime is up, but we're doing diversion, but your budget is down.
The courts weren't operating at full capacity.
Right, I'm saying, so is this a result of the pandemic? But you're saying 2017.
We've seen a continued decline since 2017. I don't think there's one singular source you can blame.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's multiple things.
Okay.
Certainly COVID had a lot to do with it.
Basically, the 90 that we have on the agenda is more COVID. It's COVID, and so it's one-time money. It's not recurring money. And so I don't want us to think that, okay, we're doing this 90. We're going to have to find, if this becomes sort of a continued request, we're going to have to find this 90 somewhere in our general operating budget or whatnot.
Well, we did speak about this in some detail. We had a nice long meeting. Was that Economic Development Committee?
Okay. ARP meeting? Okay.
ARP, that's what it was. And we talked about that we weren't looking at.
Okay.
And we all recognize a need for finding alternative sources of funding.
Gotcha. But you are, the understanding is that this particular ordinance right now is one time.
Oh, I completely understand that, sir.
All right, thank you.
I
was asking that for Todd.
No, I know it's one time.
Commissioner Chavez.
Thank you, Chairman.
For
on the court fees, the decline of those, is that due to COVID? Because I feel like obviously with the increase of crime, there should be more court, thus more fines. What can you relate that to?
I thank you for that question as well, Commissioner Chavez. The problem I have is I don't have a means of knowing on collecting. For our crime lab, we operate a lot like a church, and so I go to the mail and there's a check from a court in the mail. I have no means of tracking how that relates at all to any cases that have gone through our laboratory at all, and really any form of accountability.
Okay, perhaps, Chairman, can we reach out to our administration and see if they can run some reports to analyze that data to see if if there may be a lack of reporting or something that's getting overlooked, because there should be an increase in court fee.
Well,
If I could, or,
Sure.
just a point of information, we'll share the minutes from the committee meeting where this was discussed at length. There was a pretty comprehensive discussion about this problem. It doesn't only affect the crime lab. There's a number of other people who receive funding based on court costs.
District court too.
District court, public defender's office, a number of
Everybody.
those other offices that are experiencing a similar problem. Some of it, is related to the pandemic, but some of it is just a taste and preference change, a cultural change within the judicial style where fees are not being assessed as often and/or diversionary things are keeping things from concluding in court. It's being dealt with before it gets to the point where a court fee would be charged. And there is even some discussion of, legislation that could eliminate court costs for indigent or for lower income offenders who make up a large percentage of people who pay court costs. And then those court costs that are assessed, what they receive is really only from what is collected. And what is collected is a very small percentage. Well, to me it was. I was kind of shocked to hear what a low percentage of the overall assessed fees are. So it's only what's paid. And if somebody doesn't have money to pay the fee, they don't pay the fee. So the court fees can't be created out of nowhere, and they're being charged to people who can't pay them, and so they're not being collected.
okay.
That's,
Does that answer? I mean,
It-
it's
it-
really not, it's a complex, multifaceted.
yes, there's probably a lot more to it
equation.
than that, as quickly as I
You
could
got,
pack it in.
the courts were closed during coronavirus, so you had no throughput going on. So revenues were way down in 2020, 21, and then they picked up gradually, or popped back up once the courts opened back up. But then you also have these issues of the diversionary program, so you have fewer, and the economics, the underlying economic issues, so you have fewer court fees being charged, and then fewer people are actually able to pay their court fees. So the crime lab, their economics are adversely affected. So we all recognize the system is broken and some changes need to be made, but that's all beyond the scope of the Caddo Parish Commission, and we're just trying to help them get over a hump with this one-time payment.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, Commissioner Talfera.
I yield, Mr. President. Both Commissioner Chavez and yourself Mr. Everson and yourself brought some good points, because the fees must be assessed, which is one of the issues. A lot of people can't pay. It's really kind of a system that needs to be overhauled, as I know only too well. So I appreciate the time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate what you do.
Thank
Tough
you.
spot to be in. I get it.
Yeah, thank you for coming once again. That's all we got.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thanks.
Move to adjourn.
We had a motion by Commissioner Hopkins and a second by Commissioner Jones. Thank you all. We're adjourned.